South China Sea, China's defensive shield or strategic expansion. I am Mr. Bravo and you are watching Global Affairs Tonight. Before we begin, a milestone worth making. Global Affairs Tonight has now crossed more than a year of research, analysis and strategic storytelling. More than a year of decoding power, more than a year of tracking conflicts, alliances, and the silent war reshaping our century. From European battlefields to the Middle East fault lines, from nuclear diplomacy to maritime confrontation, GAT has spent over 12 months turning global chaos into strategic clarity. And tonight, as we move into our next phase, deeper, sharper, and more focused, we examine one of the most dangerous and misunderstood flashpoints on the earth. Welcome to Global Affairs Tonight. The sea that runs the world. This is not just a sea, it is the bloodstream of global commerce. Nearly one-third of the world's shipping passes through these waters. Oil from the Gulf, electronics and chips from the East Asia, food routes, industrial supply chains and digital infrastructure all converge here. If this sea closes, markets shake. If these seas ignites, Asia tremble. And if this sea militarizes, the world recalculates power. And today, this waterway sits at the center of geopolitical storm. History, how China sees its claim. To Beijing, the South China Sea is not just a modern ambition. It is a historical inheritance. Chinese scholars point to centuries-old fishing pattern, imperial maritime patrols and navigation maps showing Chinese presence across these waters long before modern borders exist. After the World War II, Chinese cartographers formalized these perceptions into strategic maps, what later evolved into the well-known dashed boundary claims. But modern maritime law changed the rules. When global ocean law formalized exclusive economic corridors, neighboring states began challenging China's historic narrative. In 2016, an international tribunal ruled against Beijing legal position. China rejects the ruling outrage, arguing sovereignty cannot be arbitrated without consent. To Beijing, the case was not law, it was political disguised as law. Island building, expansion or defensive buffer. Satellite image shocked the world. Reefs turned into islands, islands turned into runways, runways turned into radar hubs. To critics, this looks like militarization. To Beijing, it looks like security planning. Chinese strategic doctrine emphasizes layered defense. If rival fleets can operate freely close to your coastal line, your homeland sits exposed. To China builds air stripes, surveillance posts and logistic hub, describing them as search and rescue stations, maritime monitoring points and disaster response platform. In Beijing's view, these installations are not about projecting power outward, they are about preventing pressure inward. Tensions at the sea. Confederations now define the region. Fishing vessel intercepted, patrol boats shadowed, radio warning exchanges across contested water. Neighboring states see coercion. China calls it reinforcement within disputed territory. But the larger concern in Beijing lies beyond Southeast Asia. It lies in the presence of external fleets. Foreign naval patrols are described in Western doctrine as protecting navigation rights. In Chinese strategic thinking, they look like containment. To Beijing, this is not merely a shipping route, it is a defensive frontier. Regional diplomacy and economic strategy. The regional bloc attempts balance but struggles with unity. Some states rely heavily on Chinese trade, others rely on external security guarantees. China's preference is clear: bilateral negotiations, not multilateral pressure. At the same time, Beijing promotes economic integration, petrols, rail links, maritime infrastructures, and investment corridors. This message is deliberate. Security disputes can exist, but prosperity must continue. Why the South China Sea matters to Beijing? For China, this sea is not about reefs or rocks. It is about survival planning. Energy imports through these waters. Industrial supply chains depends on these routes. Economic stability requires uninterrupted maritime access. If rivalry powers dominated these lanes, China feared strategic strangulation. So, maintaining presence here is framed in Beijing as defensive necessity, no expansion insurance. China's ideal outcome. China's policy papers emphasize stability over confrontation. Beijing says it wants uninterrupted trade, managed disputes, regional negotiations without outside escalation. China's preference future is not war. It is controlled balance where no rival fleet dominates its doorstep and no crisis disputes its economic lifelines. Powerful strategic ending. The South China Sea is not just about territory. It is about how nations interpret history, how they define security, and how they respond to the fear of encirclement. To some, China's move resemble expansion. To Beijing, they resemble protection. And the world, the outcome here may shape whether the 21st century becomes an era of cooperation or confrontation. More than a year of Global Affairs Tonight has revealed one truth: power does not only redraw map, it reshaped narratives. And as long as the world keeps shifting, we will keep decoding it. Stay tuned, stay informed, and stay awake, because the next global flashpoint is never far away. Subscribe.